Hi everyone, and welcome to the HYPACK 2023 software webinar. Before we begin, I just want to remind you about the question box on the side of your screen. We will be taking questions at the end of the webinar, so please submit them using the drop-down. Also, if you're unable to hear us or the screen goes blank, please comment in the chat box so we can fix the issue. For today's webinar, we are going to show you all the new features and updates in our HYPACK 2023 version. Our presenters for today's presentation are John Lindberg, QC Manager, and Karen Zacharias, Tech Support Manager. Both bring great experience and expertise to our company, and we're excited to have them here with us to talk more about the HYPACK 2023 software release. So with that, I'm going to turn over the presentation to John and Karen.
Thanks, Brittany. Welcome, everybody. Greetings from Connecticut, where it's 59 degrees Fahrenheit, about 15 Celsius. Here's sunny vacation land, right? Thanks for
Joining us.
Yeah, for joining us and listening. So we're going to go over some of the what's new that has in the newly released HYPACK 2023. Okay.
So we just released HYPACK 2023 last week. February 7th. It is free to all people that are on our MP maintenance plan. You can download it right off of our webpage. You go to the HYPACK.com, go to customer support, Perkins and updates, and grab the latest release.
Yeah, as it says here in the slide, we typically do a quarterly release every quarter, 4 times a year. The fourth quarter actually, or Q1 being the official annual release. And this release contains everything, including all the updates from 2022 quarterly releases and then some. So there's quite a few bug features, enhancements, and so new features, bug fixes, enhancements, and stuff like that.
Yeah. So like some of the stuff that we will talk about today, you might already have, because if you had downloaded the quarter releases last year, they might include some of these.
Yeah, you might not realize that you've had these features too. So like it says up here, we released it February 7th. We were a little late at the HYPACK conference. I think we discussed that we would have it released somewhere late January, but as you know, I kind of liken it to when you're cutting the grass or mowing the lawn, right? You know, you get out there, you get out the lawnmower, you gas it up, you go cut the grass and everything, maybe do some edging, get the leaf blower out, a little raking, all done, put everything away, go take out, go sit back, have a beer, admire your work, and oh, I missed a spot. So that's usually what happens here, and that's why we were delayed a little bit. So we wanted to just make sure that we had a lot of things taken care of before we officially released it. So let's go to the next slide.
All right, so bag files. We've been able to create bag files for a while now, but we've never been able to display them anywhere, and we've gotten that question many times. So now we can actually display the bags in the shell, and you can color code based on the HYPACK colors, and you can query them.
Yeah, you can use the little info query icon on the toolbar on the right-hand side. This one over here, if you can see my mouse, and it'll bring up a info query window, kind of like what you can do with S57 files and various HYPACK files. Click anywhere within that bag file. It's going to give you the cell depth information. And yeah, also what's nice about this is that each cell has a color associated with it. So you can use the HYPACK colors and color to your liking.
All right, and then the sun illumination. We have this in a number of our other windows, but we now added it to the shell. So you can use that same dialog box that pops up, and you can drag it around to change the way the direction of the light will come. So the azimuth, the inclination, and some shading. So that's.
Yeah, if you go under the widgets, each map, you can have multiple maps, of course, in the HYPACK shell, but each map has a widget drop down. And if you click on widgets, go down to lighting, it'll bring up that dialog, which Karen mentioned you could click around. So on the left-hand side is your kind of standard matrix that you would see in the shell. Kind of unremarkable, nice colors, but that's about it. And then when you use the lighting, you get a bit more of a dramatic effect, as you see here on the right-hand side. Like, ooh, ah.
Things pop out.
Yep.
And then the SV file. So we now can display the locations of our sound velocity files in the shell. I do have to say that you have to have a sound velocity that has your position in it. So if you don't have the latitude and longitude within that file, it won't be displayed. So as long as it's in there, you'll see these little blue dots on the screen now, and you can hover over them and get the information for each sound velocity file.
Yeah, a lot of the newer SVs, including the Castaway, have Bluetooth capabilities and GPS built in. So we have the ability to import directly from Vailport, Castaway, and the AML newer units, which output the GPS position. In addition, you can take a target and add that in the sound velocity program. Those, we're displaying the GPS position that's being imported from that velocity cast. And what's cool is that when you display the velocity points in the shell, you'll see a little blue circle on a screen. As you hover over, as you can see over here, you can click on it, and it's going to bring up a little window like this where it has all the velocity values. And it has an open button at the top. If you click on that, it'll open up that velocity file right in the sound velocity program.
All right, and then Google Earth. Everybody has been asking for this for quite some time, is to be able to display our labels. So we've always been able to export out to Google Earth the image, but we could never get the labels over. So now that's been added.
In fact, we technically still cannot export the labels because Google Earth will not accept them. I guess I think it's the DXF format or their format. They do, however, accept text items. So what's being exported, the labels are being exported as standard Google Earth text items. So you're not going to get the rotation like you do in a DXF file. And size, it's kind of limited to what you have. And the way it's justified in a DXF file, the text items, you can have like, center justified, upper left-hand corner justified. These might not line up perfectly in the location within the exact center of the contour line. Right. So it's about the best that we can do with that situation. But it's there if you want to use it.
All right, and then we can now display the Esri Tiff files in our HYPACK shell, and it also can use the same HYPACK color table.
Yeah, the Esri Tiff files, every pixel has a value associated with it, and which we associate as depth. So when you're exporting, that depth value is being exported within that TIFF file. So again, we can use the HYPACK colors. You can auto scale to that background file, which is kind of unique, within HYPACK. Obviously, we can do it with the bag files now, but we're able to do it with some of these background files, which is a really nice feature.
Yeah. And then repositioning targets. So you might want to know, like, why would we want to reposition targets? Well, there's sometimes that you want to move it, and instead of actually going into your target editor and trying to re-enter in the position, you can actually click on your little add target tool. When you hover over your target, it will turn a red circle, and then you can click and drag it to a new position. So like if you wanted to go right over a buoy or something specific, you can drag it there. We do have to caution that once you move it,
it's moved.
It's moved. There's no save for get back to your original position. So you do want to be cautioned that if you want to move your target, it's going to be moved.
Yeah.
And then bucket files, we now have an option that we can display the different labels. So with your bucket files loaded, you can right click on the left-hand side and say display label, and you can choose what label you would like, whether you wanted no label at all, your depth elevation, You've got your text.
Yeah, some device drivers actually can output text information like the bottom type and so on, and that can be displayed also.
Yeah.
Date and time, and also if you choose not to use a label, just select none.
Yep. And then the transparency color tool, I've been using this all once we've moved it into it. It's fantastic. It's just like a paint where you can choose a color of your choice to make transparent. So you go to set transparency, you see the little icon with all the little colors swatches on there. Click that and pick the color that you want to make transparent. It adds it to a list and actually does it automatically. Hit apply and that color will be transparent for you.
And you can adjust the little slider here for the degree of transparency that you want also, which is nice. And again, this applies to pretty much any raster background file that's set up in your project.
Oh, this is one of my favorites because we used to get calls all the time, and I'm sure we still will, but we used to get calls all the time in support for our dredgers. They would be told to go out to a certain area, they had a set matrix, and then while they're all dredging, they get a call and say, oh, we need you to extend it, just go up a little further. Well, they would click their matrix, extend it, and they would lose all their data, gone. Then they call us and say, I lost all my data, and it's because they repositioned their matrix and lost it all. So we go in and recover it. Now, you can reposition and you get a choice whether you want to clear it or keep all the data.
Yeah, by default, no matter what you did when you wanted to resize a matrix, it basically deleted the information out if you happen to have a filled matrix. And now the default is that it will save the data within the resized matrix. And then there is another option there if you want to save a blank matrix. So by default, we're saving people a lot of headaches by being able to resize that data.
All right, so we add different options that people have requested. So in this one is a Z pattern for those that are autonomous vehicles and they want to run back and forth. You can go ahead, create your one line. You go in and set it to say connect lines and choose how many lines you want to left or right, and the distance. You need to make sure you put the distance in there and click OK, and it's going to automatically create a Z pattern for you based on your settings.
Yeah, so what it's doing, it's taking these parallel lines where it would be, in this example here, what is there, about 7 or 8 lines or so. Now, since it's connecting all the points, it's one contiguous line with multiple waypoints. Okay, pretty good. Like I said, the idea was this was what request by a customer that wanted to set up an autonomous vehicle with a single Z pattern line. Border editor. And when you're in the border editor, this was another request by customers. As you click on points, what it's doing is now it's actually showing as you move the cursor along on the screen, whether you click on that point or you drag that point, it'll show you the distance and bearing to the previous point. A little helpful when you're generating a matrix, not a matrix, a border file.
The target editor, export and import options. So we've kind of had it hidden before for importing a text file. It was in the shell, it wasn't built into the target editor. So we revamped it a little bit, and now we have an import and export tab in the target editor. So we can quickly and easily go ahead and import the old format, the TGT files, RTFs, or the TXTs. So it's a little bit different, or a little bit added to it, and hopefully makes it a bit easier to work with.
Yeah, we keep, as Karen mentioned, there are options in the shell versus the target. And this goes back a number of years ago when we first came out with the newer target editor. Previously, the old target editor was built into the shell, so the interaction between the two was a lot easier. With a separate program now, there's a lot of synchronization going on, and some of the options were in the editor and not in the shell or the other way around. And we're trying to revise the program, and we're gonna be doing a lot more target editor options over the course of this coming year too. So be on the lookout for that in the next few 2023 releases.
Okay, and then this one is super helpful here in support. We get so many people sending in data, and we like to create a project that resembles what you guys have collected in. And this just is a nice feature where we now write the Geodesy information in the header of the raw and HSX file. And when you go into Geodesy, you can just say import HSX or raw data, and it will update the Geodesy to reflect what you collected in. You can use it in your office to verify that the your surveyor went out and used the correct Geodesy, but we can also use it here and make sure that we're testing the same stuff. So it's a nice added feature.
Yeah, the header information, as you see on the right-hand side, is the exact same information that's in the project configuration file, which is all your Geodesy settings. So again, this has been added. We've added this to the HSX files, but a year ago, 2 years ago or so, and we've neglected to add it to the raw file. So this has been done fairly recently. And as it says in the lower left-hand corner, only works with files collected after HYPACK 2022 Q3 release. So the previous versions had this information at the top here. It's not very well laid out. It's just something that we've kept for preserve, backwards compatibility. But all the information is not there, so it's not going to work with anything prior to 2022 Q3.
And then the Geodesy custom grid changes. So we've always been able to create custom grids and save them, but now what this does is it adds the information for our tides, the RTK tide section. So your verticals. So whether you are doing N from Geoid, K from VDatum, or you're doing KTD files or anything like that, it's going to include that information in the save.
Yeah, and at the top of the title bar there in the Geoid parameters, if you've loaded up one of these custom grids, it'll display the name right at the top, as you see here. Before, it was listed as a predefined grid, which sort of got lost in the mix and everything. So it's just a little bit easier to see that you actually have a predefined, your own custom grid loaded.
All right, so importing Geoid models.
Yeah, this has been a project that's been a long time coming. We've had a couple in-house utilities to convert various Geoid formats into our HYPACK bin format. Is it bin format? I'm sorry, geo format. And for the most part, a customer would have to send us the data and we'd have to do the conversion, because it was a little standalone command line program that would sometimes work, sometimes wouldn't. So now we've made this little GUI available for customers. It's not going to solve every case, because every agency that outputs Geoid model formats never seems to abide by a standard. So we try to do what we can with this tool, but it's available. It's under the utilities Geodesy drop-down menu. Give it a try if you got some of these formats. The what do we have up there?
Bin, GGFs.
The bin are kind of your standard NGS formats. MNT are France, BYN are Canadian, GGF Trimble. GEO is the Hydromagic formats, and then GRD and GRA are kind of text type formats. And as long as you know what those formats look like, sometimes you can even just mimic it in a text editor to modify it to your liking and be able to use the program. So it may not work with every format, but the tool's there available for you if you want to give it a try.
And you want to just make sure that you actually go and do a test location to make sure everything's working.
Yep. In addition, we've added a few more Geoid models in 2023. There's a couple for France, one for Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia. So, if you're ready to go take a trip, a road trip over to one of those places, you got your Geoid models right there in HYPACK.
All right. So then we've made some enhancements, some new, we used to have a bunch of tabs up there in hardware. So this is the HYPACK combined hardware, and we've combined some of the tabs now. So you just go to the survey devices and it will give you your functions and your connection type. So another nice little feature is you can double click on the device and it pops up your setup window. So it just makes it a little bit easier and see it all in one place.
Yeah, you can right click on the device on the left hand side and also remove those devices too if you're not using them. And yeah, the whole idea of trying to interface everything on a single page is that when you click on a specific device, all your functions are here, your connection type, you have the setup button, the test device. Previously, you had to bounce between different tabs, right? You had to go to the offsets tab and go in there and modify that, and then the connect tab and so on. And it got a little bit tedious when you're dealing with a lot of devices. So hopefully this simplifies things. We're still going to do more work here. In addition, when you click on a device, you get all this information. When you click on one of the vessels, it gives you the add, remove device and stuff like that. So hopefully it's a little bit more logical, and give it a try and let us know what you think.
So over the last year, we've added some more survey device drivers.
These are some of the highlights. Quite a few specific to dredge pack, the AutoBuck, DQM, mechanical, excavator, DLL. A few changes you can see here. We've added support for the Telestra MCAST devices, inclinometer type devices. The GenDev All and GenDev Parse have some nice little features added to them. Inclinometer can do the MCAST. The NEMA DLL now supports the XDR, the NEMA XDR depth sentence. That's been a request for a while now, so we can handle that by, if you have a device that outputs a XDR string, just bring it. You can bring it right into the NEMA driver. The NEMA output by request is able to output a ZDA NEMA sentence. Of course, it's not going to be exact ZDA that you're getting out of a GPS, but in a pinch, this will work.
And then we've recently started working with some C-tool stuff for hopper dredges, so we've included that driver or those drivers in there too. And then the SI sender, we just changed the file name scheming for that. Another Telestra driver, the tide track, adding some time output options. And then the high sweep extend DLL, we actually have had that in there for a year or two.
At least a year,
It was originally created with the Norbit, but we've been using it with the Kongsberg systems and some other things, but we've also added passing so it was always passing the motion, position. Now it's also passing data and timing to HYPACK survey. And then a new GSOF messages for the pause, so we can actually read that in there now.
Yeah, Atlantic's being under the Trimble banner, I think are migrating towards the standard Trimble formats and everything. So they're able to, we're still, of course, supporting the POSMV groups, but now the driver will also work with any of the Trimbles that support the GSOF messages.
All right.
Okay.
And then along the same lines of exporting TIFFs, so we can export the matrix to Esri Geotiff now.
Yeah, right out of survey or dredge pack.
Yep.
So, and again, as with the other Geotiff files, it's got that embedded depth value, so you can colorize your Geotiff based on that depth value. Okay, survey. We have support for up to 6 map windows. Believe it or not, people use up to 6 map windows, especially on dredges. It's funny because we had this added in the old survey program that we had, now our current one is, codename RAD survey, for the past 2 years, the newer survey program. And the changes to the old survey were done during development of RAD survey. So this option did not get into RAD survey, but it had been updated for 2023.
The other added was the apply button, one of your favorites.
Yeah. I don't know, especially when people are playing around with the start line gate, a lot of times, especially when you're doing cross-sectional lines on a river, sometimes you can't get to the beginning of the start line. You might want to turn it on and turn it off on the fly. And usually it's you know, click on options, click on navigation parameters, enter the value, click OK. No, that's not right. Go back to options, navigation parameters, enter a value, click OK. Yeah, that's OK. Now we got to change it again. Options, you know, you have to keep doing that. So now I like my monotone voice. Huh? And now you just click on apply, you look at it, and if you know everything looks okay, it just saves you a lot of time by keeping that window open off to the side.
Less clicking.
And yeah, a lot less clicking. And of course, we mentioned earlier regarding the Geodesy written into the raw file header, and that can be imported directly into our Geodesy program, or you know, it might be of service to the customers too.
So the device health window, we've had that for a couple of years now, but we just added a couple more things to it. You can now actually see where it's highlighted in red, the boat speed, ping rate, average time, and then you can also use the high sweep depth now. So it's a nice, useful tool. If you guys haven't used it, check it out.
Yeah, it's under the options, shared memory. You'll see device health, and I believe this will stay open. If you close HYPACK and come back in, it should pop up automatically too. So
bucket shapes, we now have added some where you can create different shapes.
Yeah, you could use the boat shape editor to create these shapes. The boat shape editor is a great tool. Like, you know, you see we've got the little dredge over here on the map screen, which was obviously created in the boat shape editor. In this example, these are what we call tetrapods. So you just create a tetrapod boat shape, and you go under the bucket options in Dredge Pack. You've got the checkbox here, use shapefile. You load up your boat shape SHP file. Not what do you call it, shape files, but our boat shape.
It's our boat shape file.
Yeah.
And then there's also the option to show the guide bucket, so you can see it's kind of just hash marked. Or dotted, I should say.
Yeah.
And now you can see where it's going to be placed before you actually place it.
Yeah, it gives you a better idea of the exact placement location of it.
And the survey remote viewer has gotten a little bit of new design to it. We've always had, the last few years, we've had the remote survey viewer, but now we've added so we can actually show it on a mobile view. So you can use your mobile device, your tablet, your cell phone, along with another computer, and share your screen with and then that whoever is viewing it can also have options to start logging, end logging, check different lines.
Yeah, and this came about, the development for this came about because of our survey viewer program. For anybody that's used that previously, there's a folder within the HYPACK install called survey viewer, and you can basically take this executable and put it on another machine, click on it, and bring up the windows. The problem is that we've run into, it's not our issues, but I guess Microsoft decided not to support some of the internals of that program, so it's unfortunately unusable and has been discontinued now. So the idea that was a drive to develop this a bit more, and as more customers get used to it, we'll probably add more features as we move along.
And then the file size limit. So we've always been able to do based off of the time, but now we can actually do based off of the data size. So you just go into your logging options, go to the file size limit, and choose what limit you want.
Yeah. In this day and age, as most multi-beam users know, that these files can get pretty big pretty fast. And if you're running a 1 mile long line, or whatever, a couple kilometers long, loading up these files in a program will take quite a while. So the idea to break these up, if you want to keep it a little bit more manageable, and now you have that option.
You do get a warning that you can, if it's the minimum is 10 megabytes.
Yeah. If you're concerned about making files small, you probably should be collecting multi-beam.
Yes, that's true. All right, the new Kongsberg K-Mall driver. So we've been working with Kongsberg and trying to make sure everything is good to go with the KMOL. So they have the K controller software where it does not need to have sys running. So we had to work with the driver to be able to connect to the K controller. But we can also, this driver still will work with the sys5. So on one computer, two computers, using the data distribution, using multicast. If you are collecting using the old sys, you still will use the older drivers specific to those sensors or sonars, but this is for the one that's using either the K controller or sys5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also has an option to reverse beam angles for reverse mount. We've seen this numerous times where people inadvertently did not set up the reverse mount and can't figure out why they can't patch this properly.
Yeah.
Well, because your beam angles are reversed. More high sweep survey.
Yeah, so we added the T51, so the Rezon CBAT T51 driver. We also allow multiple CBAT T20s, T50, and T51. So sometimes people have duals and they wanted to add multiple drivers. So now we allow that. I'm not sure why we took it away for a little bit, but it's now added back in. And then log Rezon ocean settings. So we've done the absorption and spreading to the HSX file. We're also supporting the Norbit sonar with the yaw stabilization. Mm-hmm. And then we added the option for the start-stop Norbit logging. So we've always had that with the Rezon systems. Now it's with the Norbit as well. Mm-hmm.
Also added the Hydrotech MBS multi-beam. I believe it's a Chinese-made multi-beam. Yeah. And that's a new device driver. And there's a long-awaited fix for the Picotech. We've had, I think it goes back
2018.
To 2018. Yeah. We've had reports of it not working, and we could never quite get in sync with the users that might have had it, and we're finally able to
nail down. We were able to get connected to one, and the programmer was able to fix it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
Real-time cloud. We've added some more options here where you can stop logging now in real-time cloud.
Yeah, when you're obviously doing multi-beam and you have the real-time cloud window open, if you have the cloud window highlighted in previous versions, you couldn't use the command controls, like Control S, Control E, increment, decrement lines and stuff like that. So now those commands are actually sent over to survey, high sweep survey, if that window is highlighted. So that's kind of a welcome addition there. And a lot of these Windows dialogues have been combined rather than have to hover over the icon and try to remember, with the numerous programs in HYPACK and the numerous icons, it's hard to remember which icon is which. So we've also, combined dialogues and actually added the drop-down menus too for a lot of these icons. And we also display the bucket files in the form of 3D shapes that you could create in our 3D shape editor, or even import some of the 3ds and OBJ, I think they are formats, kind of an open source 3D format. I think we got everything there. Mm-hmm.
And then on SideScan, one of our programmers has been working really hard in the SideScan program and adding a lot of new features that are fantastic, just great visualization. So one of them is the angle gain control, better signal visualizations, nice colors, dark spots are, dark, everything's smooth, not streaky. Yeah. So the SideScan program, or the SideScan options are definitely getting a nice cleaner option there.
Yeah, and you just access it through the SideScan options dialog. You can simply right click on the window here. It'll bring up the options. You can go to the gain option here and hit the drop down menu where all the other TPG and none and all that stuff are available.
And then another one that the programmer's been working with is up with Klein, and Klein now has this Max View 600, which does some forward facing, like a gap filler. So now we can bring that in and fill in your water column, basically where the water column would be is now filled in with some forward facing sonar.
And you could also target on any of those anomalies that you might see in that gap filler window, which is nice. It'll mark a standard target and display in all the windows. In addition to this little QC display here, very simplistic thing, but it kind of gets to the point where it gives you the sonar altitude, the pitch, and the look ahead direction.
All right, the pre-sort. We have been asked for pre-sort to come back into SB Max for a while. It was always in the original SB Max, but now with SB Max 64, we hadn't added it. And there was some reasons we hadn't added it, but it is back. It's placed in a different place, and it's a little bit better.
Yeah. In the older program, when you did pre-sort, that was done actually. Well, I guess the pre-word is before loading the data. And what could happen in the examples you see here, the original data file where there's quite a few spikes in here, if you did the pre-sort, you would risk, the pre-sort basically thins out the data based on distance or time. And if you're pre-sorting the data before you've actually edited the data, you can risk having a bad sounding in there. Obviously, that's going to affect everything, if you're trying to thin out your data and doing a quick pre-sort and doing a presentation in front of everybody and to see a big spike like that, not gonna make people too happy. So we've added this under the tools drop-down menu. You can click on pre-sort, you get the window like you would see in the old program. And this would be taken into account any of the data that's already been edited, and you're gonna get a much better looking profile. I think that's it.
Yeah. Showing uninterpolated or interpolated depths now, we can actually put a little X and say these would be interpolated, and you can choose to uninterpolate if you don't want to.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are not fans of interpolated depth because you're actually changing a value that was collected. A lot of times people would prefer to delete it. And in HYPACK, depths are typically saved as either deleted or not deleted. There's a flag basically for deleted points. So when you interpolate the data, the idea here was to be able to just kind of go back and view what had been interpolated. So it's basically a toggle button that you click up here. It's going to show, highlight any interpolated point with a blue colored X, and then you can kind of toggle back and forth between those.
The removing duplicated positions, this was specific for one user, and we decided to put it in for everybody. They happen to have a base station set up, so it was collecting multiple positions for 1 times a sec, or 10 times in 1 second or something.
It was a base station GPS, right?
Yeah.
A base station mode that was on the survey mode, and
so it really screwed them up. They had a lot of position, or the same position for multiple depths.
And it's funny because we've seen this before numerous times over the years, but finally somebody, the customer explained what was happening. It turns out it was in base station mode. So basically, even though you have your GPS set to output 10 times a second, 10 Hertz, it was outputting the same exact position 10 times a second rather than new positions each time. So you get these funny little jogs in here, little noise and everything. So now we have a little checkbox here, remove duplicate POS records. So what it's doing is it's scanning the file, and if it finds the exact same position following each other, it just eliminates those exact positions, and you get a much better looking profile, as you see on the right hand side here.
And then now we can bring in the native S7K files from Teledyne directly into SB Max 64. We can calculate the RTK tides based on the product Geodesy now. And then we now support we used to in this, so a lot of these are carryover from SB Max, the original, now to SB Max 64. We had lost the ability to bring in the seabed E1s and E2s, the IDs. So now we can bring that in again for the Roxanne, the Echo Pulse, and then remove 1000 point.
Yeah. So somebody had a, with the tide adjustments program, there's a center line method where you can load up a center line along with tide files along that center line. So it's going to do a tide interpolation. Well, somebody had a center line with over 1,000 waypoints that was not loading in. It's like, okay. So we just removed that limit. Going back to the ODM too, is that the S7K, those are the Teledyne ODM single beam files. Teledyne, I think, recently gave support to that over the past couple of years. So these are collected directly in their, I think the E20, I forget what they call it, SBES software, maybe. I think that's what it's called. So you can log that data, import it directly into HYPACK. One issue within their files that had come up is that if you use their system to collect data and you happen to use a GGA string, you have to be really careful because their elevations might not be properly written in the files. They might have corrected in a recent update. So before you do that, you might want to just double check with Teledyne ODM to verify that it has been fixed properly if you're doing RTK with the S7K files.
All right.
Okay. The export GeoJSON format that's been added to the export program. There's just an option under the options where you can select the item within the options dialog, and you can output whether you want your local XY, your local lat long, or WGS84 lat long positions. And it converts all the various formats that the export can bring in: targets, LNW files, XYZ, border, HS2, HS2X, all format files, and for some reason we're still even supporting the SWP file, which hasn't been used in HYPACK in about 20-something years, but it's available. If you happen to have some old historical data, you might want to convert.
And then the ENC editor got a little bit of an update. We changed some icons, and we also decided to by default set the to display geometry. Before it was never on, and then we got somebody was like, why doesn't it just show it? So we said, oh, that should be by default.
Yeah, it is an editor after all, right? So the idea was, okay, we should be able to edit it when we load up the data, right?
Yeah.
So there you are.
And then an option for the overlay. So there's a little option now in the profile window to say overlay. And if you have a filled matrix loaded in the matrix settings, that will get overlaid in your profile or your AB cross-section windows now. And then the auto save and exit. So this option, we all say you load up your data, you go and process it. Well, we've noticed that HSX files take a long time to load. HS2X files are much faster to load. So what this option does, it's not like an autosave as you're processing. This is an autosave. So you load up your data, you have your you do your auto processing. So you go in and apply your filters, do all that stuff, and then you choose the auto save and exit, and that just loads up everything, saves it out, and closes it. So you could do this, at the end of the day, you go set everything up, do the auto save, exit. When you come back tomorrow, you can just go ahead and load up your HS2X files. So it saves a little bit of time, or hopefully a lot of time, and you just start with your HS2X file. So that's why it's an auto save and exit. So it exits out because you now need to load up the HS2X files. It doesn't just automatically save out the HS, or doesn't automatically load up the HS2X when you're choosing the HSX files to do the autosave. If that makes sense. And then along that is this is the auto save feature, which is fantastic. I don't know why we never added it before.
Yeah, this is my favorite.
So now we can actually auto save your files. So if for whatever reason shuts down, you can come back and your HS2X files right back where you were, or close to, based on when it last saved.
Yeah, you just go under the save options there. You have a save reminder, auto save HS2X, and it brings up this dialog where you can, choose the auto save or just a save reminder, which we had for a couple years now. It chooses auto save, and then you have the option to display an overwrite prompt in case you want to just kind of keep an eye on that. So that's all available now.
And then loading up the KML files, just like I was saying, we're slowly getting into more of the native files from bringing them into HYPACK. So you don't have to go convert it to an HSX file. We can actually bring in the files that were collected in the native software. So for this instance, it's a Kongsberg system collecting KMLs. We can bring it right into SBMax64 without converting it. You want to take this
Yeah,
one?
sure. Go-to position is an option that came about somewhere in the middle of the year, and basically what that does, you can type in a position and it'll highlight that position with the matrix that's loaded in MBMax. Okay, so you can enter that either in X, Y, or lat long, and it's going to create a list of sounding locations within the go-to position dialog. So any positions that are in here, you could click along. You might have a bunch of targets or concerned areas or something that you might want to review. So you can add all these to that list, and you can toggle between those various areas.
Just point out it's within the matrix area. It
Yeah,
has to be within the matrix.
Yes, and it'll highlight the crosshairs within that at that position.
And one of the filters for the minimum soundings, you can now go in and choose how many soundings you want within a cell. And if it doesn't have that minimum number, it filters it out.
Yeah, it just filters it right out. So in this example, there's a minimum number of soundings per cell. The 3 is here. So in this example, any cell that has less than 3 soundings will be eliminated. The data will be eliminated and will not be saved in that matrix.
And then the feature detection, this was added or changed from an obstruction to a feature, because as you said,
yeah, obstruction could be a scary word, when you're just supplying a bunch of areas. They might not even be close to your survey depth, your project depth, or channel depth, what have you. Channel might actually be extremely deeper there, but there might be a rock that's 10 meters deeper than what your channel says or something, and it's not really an obstruction, so we just mark it as a feature. A lot of this is driven by the Army Corps of Engineers eHydro export that we've added, but of course it's available to anybody. Got it. Okay, side scan, targeting, and mosaicing. This program's been entirely revamped for 2023. In fact, we marked it in the side scan drop-down menu as a beta version. Yeah, we still have the old program because there still might be some tweaking and some issues going on in this program, but it's a really nice interface. It's got the dockable windows. You can dock the windows. You can create tabs out of the various windows. A lot of display and speed improvements. We can load all the SDF and HSX files with the client max view data, and also select which frequency you want to mosaic in the stage 3. So there's a lot of new features in the side scan, so give it a try.
Give it a try.
Yeah.
Let us know.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to use. It's actually a lot of fun. So, okay, cloud, the profile display, new window that you can pop up here by clicking on this little icon. This is the profile icon. You just drag a line through your data, and it's going to display a profile window. Where you see that information where you drag that line. And what's nice here is you can edit and filter from that display.
And then on the same, the bucket display, like we talked about before, the 3D buckets, we can now show that in the cloud as well. So you can just go to the style in cloud and choose whether you want to show a rectangle, tetrapod, or if you had a custom 3D shape.
Yeah. The tetrapod is a standard shape that's in HYPACK. That's you can modify, change the scaling in the 3D shape editor if you want. So it just takes that shape, or if you click on custom, you can load up any of these 3D shape editor files, which are the 3OD format. And then of course you can bring in 3DS and OBJ files too.
And then continuing with cloud, the target viewer. So you can click on where it says target view, and you can see all your targets that you have, turn them on and off. And then you can also choose how you want to see those targets, whether you want the points, circles, an MBMX style, cylinders, or flags. And then we now can save out, so there's a new save dialog window, and you can even save out the HS2X, which is the MBMX 64 style.
Yeah, the idea is to have everything in one window rather than the various file drop-down menus, I believe, to save, so everything is in one convenient place. Okay.
And then just ADC profile, another new interface, dockable windows. If you got a hint here, we're trying to go modernize and new windows, new interfaces, dockable windows. So hopefully it's a little bit better view and easier to use. There's also, we added the option for blanking at the bottom of the profile window. So you can set the percentage and blank that at the profile.
Yeah, a lot of the changes that have been done, there's been various changes internally too that have been through our relationship with Sontec over the past few years, and it's driven more of the development here in the ADCP profile, make it a little bit more user-friendly, and a few of the options and recommendations and so on. So that's what we got there. Okay. And then a lot of these features are detailed. We've got the New Sounding Better newsletter out there where it lists, I believe Caroline wrote up an article detailing a lot of these new features, and then various people have written in-depth articles regarding some of these features. And it's all available for download up on Sounding Better up on our website. You'll also find out what's new with other seminars. I guess that's probably how you find out about this one too, right? Training and additional tips and tricks. Okay.
And now we're at the questions and answers. So it looks like we're running pretty quickly. So we can do a couple of the questions.
Yeah.
Let's see. The first one, what OS does HYPACK 2023 run on?
Okay. We support mostly Windows 10 and Windows 11. It will run on Windows 7 if you still have that, but there are some tools that might not work correctly. It's just due to the development. Don't forget, Windows 7 is probably, I don't know how old Windows 7 is these days. It's got to be over 10, 12 years now. And a lot of the functionality within Windows 7 is incompatible with newer, programming technology. So, we have to keep moving on. We're fully compliant with Windows 11. So, and there's no issue there at all.
Great, thank you. The next question is, what is the deal with downloading HYPACK off the web page? Why do we have to fill out so much information every time? Well, that's good news, is we do not have to fill that out anymore. We now have the reCAPTCHA button there. So there are a couple fields that you can fill out, but it's not necessary. So just make sure you hit that reCAPTCHA button and you can download. You'll get option to download. We just had a lot of robo downloads when we first put it out there. So we're just trying to eliminate that.
We're trying to foil the no goodniks out there, and then try to give them a little bit of a hassle now. So, and unfortunately, it gave all our customers a lot of hassle by entering all this information.
We apologize.
Yeah. So hopefully this will.
It wasn't just you guys. We were getting annoyed when we were out in the field and have to download too.
Exactly. So. Yeah.
Let's see. One of the other questions here is to use the survey remote viewer, do we have to be all on the same network? And yes, right now you have to be on a network, or you create your own, like a VPN or something like that. So you do have to be within the same.
Yeah.
And is there anything else? Let's see. What is the HYPACK extend DLL? I never heard of this one. Well, I
kind of described
yeah,
it
I
in
think I described it a little bit.
in the one of the slides there. This came about when we were working with, I think initially with Norbit. They have their web interface where everything is interfaced within their system, their motion, attitude, and position.
So they want to pass the information over so HYPACK survey could use that information.
Right, right. And for people that know how HYPACK and HYSweep work, there are two separate programs that run along. You know, HYPACK is mostly in charge of the positioning, and HYSweep is mostly in charge of everything else. So now we can pass that position, motion, nadir depth information over to HYPACK.
Yeah.
And then obviously with the latest extended, we actually send over the timing.
Yes.
In addition.
So I think, is that about all the time we have, or do we have time for any more?
Unfortunately, we're out of time, guys. So we're going to wrap it up, but we want to thank John and Karen for a great presentation. I also want to remind everyone about our upcoming virtual and in-person training opportunities this year. We have a full list on our website. You can visit us at HYPACK.com, and you can view the list and register right on the web. And we want to thank everyone for their participation today and hope you enjoyed the webinar. You all will get a copy of this presentation, and we will get in touch with anyone who had unanswered questions over the next week. Also, please don't hesitate to contact us. We can be reached at sales@hypack.com, and check us out on our social media pages. We're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn for upcoming news and updates. So we hope to talk to you soon, and have a great rest of your day.